So, were the Taiwanese properly aware of the importance of Subhash Bose?
The Taiwanese were very, very well informed about Bose. They knew he was an important person. And this can be glimpsed from the fact that there were other reports concerning Bose. For example, there was a report which the Taiwanese newspapers carried out about how some of Bose's relatives had been released from prison. That the British had arrested them and they had been released in India following the victory of the Allied forces. Now, if a British politician, a prominent British politician dies in India and Indians don't report on it, but they report on something which is happening to the relatives of that British politician, is that possible? So the Taiwanese, their newspapers are carrying incidental reports connected to Bose. The curiosity about Subhash Bose is so much that they're saying that, oh, Subhash Bose's relatives in India, they have been released. This is being reported in the Taiwanese newspapers. So it is beyond any credibility that they would not report something as important, as significant as an air crash. It's just not possible. It's like if you say that, Deepika Padukone gets married and it's not reported in the Indian newspapers, but we report something about Deepika Padukone's cousin who is married somewhere in the Maldives. It's completely inconsistent. So there's no question the Taiwanese were very well informed. And the thing is that when an air crash took place, just like there were relatively few British people in India compared to the number of Indians who supported them, who worked with the colonialist rulers, so also in Taiwan, the Japanese were taking assistance from a lot of local Taiwanese. So there would have been a lot of local Taiwanese who had been working in the airport, who would have been working in the hospitals, and they should have been interviewed by the first commission, by the second commission. Khosla didn't bother to go to anybody else. The first commission was not allowed. And I believe the first commission was not allowed. It's very clear it was not allowed because they said, well, Mr. Nehru knew that if it goes to Taiwan, it will be impossible to keep this a secret, that there was no crash, because they would have to speak to the Taiwanese people. If they went all the way, maybe he could ask Justice, the main, maybe Shah Nawaz could have been persuaded that don't make too many inquiries, but what could have been done about Mr. Bose's brother, Suresh Basu? He would have gone all over, he would have gone to meet the Taiwanese. Was there an air crash? Did it take place? Do you have any records? Who were the Taiwanese people working at the airport? Are there any witnesses? I mean, there would have been so many, hundreds and hundreds of witnesses. As it happened in the first commission, there were only Japanese witnesses who appeared. And as I mentioned in a previous interview, the Japanese witnesses fell over each other, contradicting each other. 8 witnesses all claimed to have undressed Subhash Bose, whose clothes had caught fire. So there were lots of Japanese testimony, but there was not a single Taiwanese person who was speaking.
So, would you say that Subhash Bose stage managed the air crash?
Yes, Ananya, that is what appears to have happened. But that is not such a significant thing. What is more significant is that what Nehru did. Because it would appear, my assessment of Nehru is that if he had not become Prime Minister, he would have definitely become a very good or even great professor of English language and literature. I say this because Nehru spoke and wrote excellent English. In fact, he sometimes mentioned that he is the last British Prime Minister of India, self-deprecating about the fact that he was very anglicized. So he would have made a great professor of English, and he was a man who loved to go to the theatre. And there is a play which is staged in the UK called The Mousetrap. I think it's written by Agatha Christie. And it's very famous because it's supposed to be the longest running play at Leicester Square. It's been running for about 60, 70 years. But we have a play here in India which has been running for even longer. The play was, you can say it was titled The Death in an Air Crash of Subhash Bose. It was directed by Jawaharlal Nehru. there was technical cooperation from the British and from the Japanese. This play has been running on since 1945, and maybe it's time for the curtain to finally fall. It's the longest running play, and the entire country has been watching this play. And I think it's time that the curtain fall and it become clear to everybody there was no air crash, there was no possibility of anybody's death in an air crash, leave aside Subhash Bose. Nobody died in an air crash because the air crash never happened. And this is finally the conclusion which Justice Mukherjee also comes to. As far as the questions are concerned, which he was supposed to answer, is Subhash Bose dead? He says yes, Subhash Bose is dead because he would have been more than 100 years. I believe he would not have lived so long, so I can conclude that Subhash Bose is dead. Did the air crash take place? Did the air crash take place? The justice concludes there was no air crash. There is no evidence. The Taiwanese authorities have come out very clearly and said there is no air crash. We have no record of an air crash taking place 10 days before the alleged date, 10 days after the alleged date. We have recorded other crashes. So justice says there was no crash. And as far as the ashes are concerned, the ashes at Renkoji temple, Justice Mukherjee clearly concludes those ashes do not belong to Subhash Bose. Now, shamefully enough, the conclusions of this committee are not accepted by the government. It's a non-Congress government which is in power, and they don't accept the recommendations of the commission. So you have two fake commissions. The first one, the Shah Nawaz one, the recommendations, the conclusions are accepted by the government, the Congress government, Mr. Nehru's government. Then you have the second fake commission, which is the Justice G.D. Khosla Commission. Again, the recommendations, the conclusions are accepted by Indira Gandhi. And then you have, finally, a commission which unearths the truth. Beyond any doubt, I mean, the Taiwanese are very clear. There was no air crash. We have no records. How could an air crash of this significance take place and not be reported in the press? I don't think we need more proof. I think it's astonishing that there still should be debate about it. But finally, the one decent report that we have, the one proper report that we have, that is also not accepted by the government. So, to repeat my earlier point, across all political parties, they have all behaved shamefully. They all seem to be opportunistic. I will not only blame the Congress, I will blame each and every other political party. I will blame even our journalists. They could have flown across to Taiwan. They could have met with the Taiwanese people. Credit goes to a few journalists like Mr. Anuj Dhar, who took the initiative. But what is the state of investigative reporting in this country? I mean, Taiwan is not that far. You're not going to the moon, or you're not going to the North Pole. What have journalists and the media been doing for all these years after our independence? So I think it's a comment on them as well.
So the conclusion of your book is that Subhash Bose did not die in an air crash, and you come up with an alternative of what actually happened to him, which we will not tell the viewers because they have to read the book for it. But on what basis did you come up with what you came up with?
Excellent question, Ananya. Yes, I can't tell you what's there in the book. People will have to read the book to find out what I say happened really to Subhash Bose. And I don't have any new documentary or other kind of evidence, but I believe that my estimate is the most plausible one based on an analysis of Nehru's personality. So I use another way to come to my conclusions. I psychoanalyze Nehru. It's not difficult to make an assessment of Nehru's character and personality. It's also not difficult to make an assessment of Subhash Bose's character and personality. In the last session, I spoke that anybody who understands Subhash Bose will understand that such a man would never go underground to become a sadhu out of fear that the Congress or some other national government is going to assassinate him. The man who had the courage to take on the mightiest empire in the world at the time, such a man would not be fearful of any local government. So all the conspiracy theories that they can be rubbished by anybody who just has a simple understanding, simple and clear understanding of Subhash Bose's personality and nature and character. I also feel that we can use Nehru's nature, character and personality as a basis to draw conclusions on what happened to Subhash Bose. So my second last chapter in the book is called What Nehru Knew. And there are about 10 questions which I ask. Firstly, I ask, did Nehru know more than he was letting on? And the answer is yes. Then I ask a question, was Nehru worried that something might come to the surface? And my answer is yes. And then I say, I address some of the questions which have been targeted against Nehru. That was Nehru responsible for the assassination of Subhash Bose? And I answer it unequivocally, no. There was no possibility. Nehru was too idealistic in his own way. Sometimes the flaws in his prime ministership was due to his kind of impractical idealism. Nehru had his flaws. He was an ambitious man. But I give some other reasons why he would never have done something like this. And I explain, I think I should not explain more. People have to read the book, what really happened. And please do read, please do watch other previous episodes. And so far the book is doing well. It's doing, it's number 10, I think, in the subcategory of freedom. Some reviews have come in, the earlier 5-6 reviews, they are all very positive. So I'm happy that people are receiving it well. This is a man we should be proud of. As I mentioned, you know, he was such a thorn in the eyes of the British that they made so many attempts to assassinate him. The only modern contemporary that I can think of who became such a nuisance was probably Fidel Castro, but Fidel Castro also cannot be compared because Fidel Castro was just running a different system. And Subhash Bose had raised an army, so he was much more a thorn in the eyes of the British because he could, you know, spread a conflagration. People who fought from India in the war, the army, when they fought in the Burma against the INA, it was a moment of great conscientization. I should conclude perhaps because with a small observation once more on what is the, you know, reason why we should respect the INA beyond all other patriots. Because I think in an earlier message I spoke about different kinds of courage. So for example, there's a movie coming out about how the Sikhs fought very bravely in a certain campaign in Afghanistan. It's a great film, probably, and I will watch it. But the point is that they were fighting for the British. Okay, we still celebrate how Indian soldiers fought for the British bravely, you know, in world wars. In the World War I and World War II, many Indians lost their lives. They gave their lives and they fought very bravely. They were awarded Victoria Crosses. But that's a different level of courage because you're not fighting for a great cause which is personal to you. But the INA, they represented the highest level of courage. I should say that within the INA also there were two people, two kinds of recruits. One were the recruits who, you know, Japan made a lot of victories in the earlier phases of the World War, Second World War. So they captured a lot of Indian, British prisoners of war who were kept in Japanese jails. Shah Nawaz was one of them. And these prisoners of war were convinced by Subhash Bose, you are fighting for the wrong side. And many of them were very brave, many of them were very courageous. But the ones whose courage was the purest, according to me, were the ones who joined directly from different parts of Southeast Asia. I've traveled to Burma, I've met a lot of freedom fighters, children, you know, they remember how their grandfather fought in the war, they remember how their you know, grandmothers supported the campaign. I've been to Malaysia, I've been to Thailand, I've had opportunity to see how people send their daughters to fight for the INA, for a cause. Now that for me represents the highest level of personal courage, because you're pitted against a vastly superior enemy. You're risking your life. So the kind of courage which British Indian soldiers exhibited, while laudable in a way, but it cannot be compared in terms of purity, idealism, with those who fought for the independence of their nation. So if we don't respect the INA, in a way, as a nation, we are not respecting the most valorous amongst us. I think I'll conclude here.
So with that, we come to an end of our series of the book, The Vanishing of Subhash Bose, The Mystery Unlocked. Mr. Talwar, thank you for being with us. Thank you for explaining to us so much about various things that we probably didn't know.
Thanks so much, Ananya. You're right. This has been a series of episodes. I think they are numbered more than 10 episodes we've had on a single book, The Vanishing of Subhash Bose, The Mystery Unlocked. Otherwise, we've been having, just 2 episodes on each book in 2 parts. But this is a kind of book which deserved this. I thought about it, and I thought that we are living in an age where people read less, listen more, and this is a kind of book where people need to know about their real history through all kinds of sources. So for those who can read the book, wonderful. For those who cannot read the book, for whatever reason, at least they have these episodes which will shed light on many aspects of our freedom struggle, how India gained freedom, what we could call Asli Azadi. So thank you very much. Thanks to you and your team. And as you say, we'll be back very soon with yet another book. There are many other books waiting in the pipeline, and look forward to discussing something interesting next time as well. Thank you.
And hopefully when we come back with another book, we'll get to know so much more yet again. This was your host, Ananya Sharma. Thank you for being with us, and hopefully see you soon with yet another book and yet another episode.